Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's session. This is week 2. We're going to go over the first steps to symbolization for Philosophy of Logic 8. I'm Marian Hanna, and I'm the SI for this quarter. So the first thing I wanted to go over was atomic sentences. Basically, atomic sentences are the building blocks for more complex sentences. So think of them as conveying one idea at a time. And we're going to go and assign letters to each atomic sentence. And so you can have more than one atomic sentence within one complete sentence. And we'll see examples of that. So take a look at the example from last video. Oranges are either fruits or musical instruments. So this is a complete sentence, but within it, there are actually two atomic sentences. So the first one, we can assign the letter A to it and say oranges are fruit. The second atomic sentence is oranges are musical instruments, and we can assign the letter B to that one. So let's take a look at the connectives that we're going to have for this quarter. There's 5 of them, and I'm going to go roughly the basics of each of these. But basically, here's an overview of each symbol, what it's called, and its rough meaning. And let's take a look at negation. Okay, so basically a sentence can be symbolized as not a if it can be paraphrased in English as it's not the case that. So this is the definition that you guys have in the book. And basically it's just you put a not a whenever you see it's not the case that, or you see it's not that, or whatever it is, and you just put that little line next to it, the little squiggly at the bottom, next to whatever letter you just assigned that atomic sentence. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. So oranges are fruits, and oranges are not fruits. So the first one, we can assign oranges are fruits to the letter A. But for the second one, we don't need to come up with a different letter for that one. All we have to do is just put a negation sign next to it, and you get not A. So the first one is for oranges are fruits, that's just A. And then the second one, oranges are not fruits, is basically just not A with that little line next to it. So pretty simple. So the second one is conjunction. So basically the definition in the book is a sentence can be symbolized as A conjunction B if it can be paraphrased in English as both and, but, although, etc. So basically use a conjunction whenever the sentence has two ideas tied together with any of these, both and, but, although, and you put a conjunction in between them. Let's take a look at an example. Barbara is athletic and energetic. So before we do anything, we have to separate it into its atomic sentences. So within this one complete sentence, how many atomic sentences are there? So there's 2 of them, and the first one is Barbara is athletic. So we can assign the letter A to that one. And the second one is Barbara is energetic, right? We can assign the letter B. And so because you see there's an and in between these two ideas, all we have to do is just put A and or conjunction B in between parentheses. So that one's pretty easy. Let's take a look at another example. Although Barbara is energetic, she is not athletic. So how are we going to assign pretty much the atomic, how are we going to separate this sentence out into its atomic sentences? So it's pretty much the same as the last example, right? It's Barbara is energetic. We're gonna assign it with letter A. Barbara is athletic, right? Even though it's not exactly written this way, we still get the idea out and assign the letter to it. And so this one is a little bit different because it's not as clear how we get this answer. So you get A conjunction, not B. And so remember that the word although is pretty much saying and in this scenario, right? And you can always go back and check which words fit into which category. But although is conjunction. And so you get the two ideas, you get A and B. And so because the word although is there, you put the conjunction between the two of them, but then she is not athletic. So then you easily just put a negation right next to the be, and then you're good to go. Okay, next example. So our third connective is disjunction, and that's going to be conveyed with this V-looking symbol. Pretty much anytime a sentence can be symbolized as a disjunction, B, if it can be paraphrased in English as either or. So whenever you see those two, you pretty much put a disjunction in between the two phrases, the two atomic sentences. So let's take a look at an example. You can have either soup or salad, right? So the first atomic sentence that we're going to separate out is A, you can have soup, right? And then the second one, even though it's not stated outright, it's going to be you can have salad, right? And so this is easy. You just have the two separate ideas, and then you bring them together with a disjunction, and you put that V in between A and B. But let's take a look at this example. It's a little bit more complicated. You can get either soup or salad, but not both. So there's a lot going on in this sentence, but you see that the first part of that one is pretty much the same as the first example. So you get either soup or salad. We already know that we can separate off the atomic sentences as A, you can have soup, or B, you can have salad. But now when we're gonna assign pretty much for the but not both section, we don't need to come up with another letter C. All we have to do is pretty much get a little creative. So let's take a look at how I got this answer. So we know that the first part, A, disjunction B, is pretty much the same as the first example. But I color-coded it, and we see that the but here is in yellow, which is pretty much a conjunction, right? It's another way of saying and, right? It's this thing, but not this, but it's still something that comes together just like an and, even though it's saying it's not that. It's still coming together in a conjunction, right? And so, but is a conjunction. If it's still not making sense, definitely I would start off by memorizing it, memorizing which words correspond to which connective, and then it'll start to slowly make sense. And so not, we know that's the negation, so that's pretty easy. So we just put that in brown. Both, we know that's also a conjunction from the previous slide, and we could just put both ideas together, right? A conjunction B, right? So you can have either or, but you can't have both together. You can't have salad and soup together. And so that's why there's the negation there, and it's the conjunction, which is showing both together. And then the two ideas, so this whole section, right? I don't know if you can see my mouse. This whole section and this whole section are tied together with a conjunction, right? Because there's that but in between. I hope this was clear, but if you still have any questions, definitely comment below or send me an email. I'm available anytime you need me. Okay, so our fourth connective is the conditional, and that's conveyed by that arrow. So basically, definition in the book is a sentence can be symbolized as A conditional B if it can be paraphrased in English as A if A then B, or A only if B. So anytime you see if or the words only if, then you know there's going to be a conditional involved. So let's take a look at an example. So if Jean is in Paris, then Jean is in France. So that one, we easily do it. We're like, okay, we separate these two ideas out. First one is Jean is in Paris. Second one is Jean is in France. And we assign the two corresponding letters. And then we just put a connective in between them. And in this case, it's the conditional because we see an if then. Pretty simple, right? Okay, well, let's take a look at a more complicated example. So the only if, this one is a little bit different. So it's not necessarily if then, you see an only if in between two ideas or two atomic sentences. this is where it gets a little complicated, and this is where I say start off by memorizing and then going back and trying to understand, okay, why are we doing this later on? So we have this here. So we have Jean is in Paris and Jean is in France, and it's pretty much the same as the previous example. But this time it's actually flipped. And that's just because of the wording. So anytime you see Jean is in Paris, sorry, only if, then you know that you can't just put it in the order you did in the previous example. You're gonna have to flip it. So in this case, just because, right, just because there's an if here, right? If Jean is in Paris, it's not the same as if Jean is in Paris in the first example. This is conveying a slightly different idea, and for the sake of just your first time memorizing it, first time seeing it, just know that it's going to be flipped anytime you see only if in this example. So if you see an only if, you know that it's going to be the other way around, right? You're going to start off with B and then going to A. Okay, so let's take a look at the conditional. This is the biconditional. This is our last connective, and pretty much it's symbolized as biconditional B, and it can be paraphrased in English as anytime you see A, if and only if B. Just put a biconditional between them. Okay, so for example, Luca is a dog if and only if she is a mammal. So obviously we separate the two ideas out. You get the dog, we assign the letter A to it. You get she's a mammal, we assign letter B to it. And then you easily put a biconditional in between them, and then you're good to go. So let's take some key points just to make sure that you have everything. When you start off, make sure to break down the sentences you see in atomic sentences and assign them to different letters. If you don't stay consistent, things will get just really messy and you won't be able to get the correct answer. So make sure you stay consistent when you assign different letters. Pay close attention to keywords like not, and, or, if, and only if, right? So all of the ones that I have in cap right there pretty much are the keywords for the different connectives, and this will definitely tell you which connective to use when you're figuring out how to pretty much translate these sentences into the language of logic. Yeah, and just make sure to assign them the corresponding connective. All right, so just a quick reminder, I have session every week from 3 to 4 on Wednesday and from 11 to 12 on Friday. I'll have the Zoom link down below in the description, as well as on iLearn in the SI folder section. Also, don't forget, your homework will be posted today and it will be due 1 week from today. So email me or comment below with questions if you have any. And I wish you good luck. Take care.